Rise the tide, everybody. Half a day, Joe Guam here. Hey, I want to thank you guys for joining me for this episode. If you're new to the show, Seduce Masi, thank you for joining us. Rise the tide comes from the ancient Chinese thought that high tide rises all ships. So if we contribute to the tide, if we help to rise the tide around us, other folks that are in the tide can help to benefit. So my contribution to the tide or to the community is through music. It's to share with you on these episodes what I've learned from other musicians that are smarter than me, that have been doing it longer than me over the years, and also what I figured out on my own and what's worked for me. So today I want to talk to you guys about what are the different types of performances or performance styles or performance categories that a musician can have when playing a gig. So if you're gonna play a gig, if you're getting hired to play a gig, some things to consider about the type of performance that you're gonna deliver and what's appropriate for the event. So there are three types or categories of performances that I want to talk about. There's probably more, so I'd love if you could tell me in the comments or in a private message what are some additional categories. But the first one I want to talk about is just lounge music or background music. It's commonly referred to as lounge music, where the volume is a bit lower. So you're lower in volume. The music isn't high energy, it's lower energy. And also you want to maintain a conversational level type of delivery, type of performance. So you don't want to add in very high dynamics where it goes loud, or it's high energy then low energy. You don't want to do that. Your goal is to maintain conversational level. Now, when is lounge music appropriate? Well, let's say you get hired for a mixer. I get hired for a lot of mixers these days. And if you get hired for a mixer, the purpose, the goal of the people attending the mixer is to network. They want to talk with people. So if your music is super loud and they can't talk, it defeats the whole purpose of why they're there. So if you get hired for a mixer, you're hired to play lounge music, background music, almost like they're not even noticing you, but you're creating this really amazing live music ambiance that provides them a comfort and an enhanced experience, right? So the way you can serve that event is by just literally being background music. So that's the lounge type of performance, okay? Second one I want to talk about is kind of like a concert performance or a featured performance where you are it. You are the reason people are there. You are the purpose. You have the responsibility to enhance the experience, completely enhance the experience. You have the sole responsibility to enhance the experience of the audience, like members that came to see you. So imagine Ed Sheeran. You're going to an Ed Sheeran concert. The only thing you're there to do is to see Ed Sheeran play and sing. That's it. It's his sole responsibility to perform for you in a featured performance setting. And it's his responsibility and his sole responsibility to enhance your experience. So if you're booked to play this, these types of preparation, or the preparation for these types of shows, is different. You're gonna wanna make sure you are completely polished, that you've rehearsed your songs, you've rehearsed your numbers, that your entrance into the show is very polished, that your transitions from song to song aren't added and made up. You have proper transitions, that your set list is laid out in a way that makes sense, that takes people through different types of vibes, whether it's a slow song and a high song, whatever, that you've clearly planned it out. A lot of people pay money to hire producers to think about all this and create a set so that it's delivered and that the audience leaves with a wow factor and just in awe, right? And they remember you. So that's featured performance type. So if you get hired to play a gig, are you playing lounge music or are you the featured performer? What are you doing? If you get hired to play a wedding, 100% of the time at the wedding, well, I shouldn't say 100, 99.999% of the time at the wedding, you're there to provide background music. And the reason for that is because the feature of that event is the bride and groom. There's a few times where I've heard where at a wedding, the bride and groom hired like Ed Sheeran to play. And so Ed Sheeran's putting on a concert at a wedding, and literally for the time that Ed Sheeran's on stage, nobody cares about the bride and groom. They just care about Ed Sheeran. So there's times where I've heard of that, but most 99.99% of the time, if you're hired to play a wedding, you're there for lounge music, background music, to enhance the experience of the people, almost always to make sure that it's conversational level, because people, it's almost like a mini reunion at a wedding. So, or the other side is the featured performer. Are you there to put on a concert, a really awesome show? The third category and type of performance is what's also known as interactive. So if you live in the States, you probably been to a dueling piano show. If you're from Guam, we don't have dueling pianos here, but essentially what it is, it's two pianos where the piano players face each other. 100% of the songs that they play are requests. It is common practice at a dueling piano show. It's kind of like karaoke, where all the songs that are played come from a request from the audience. The audience sends up song requests with tip money, and they play it. But not only do they play the song, they play the song with the intention of getting you, the audience, to interact with them and sing with them. So interactive musicians, like dueling piano musicians, not only do they have to be super musicians in the sense where they have to perfect the song, but they also have to build in certain key interactive points in their music where it triggers you to almost involuntarily sing along or involuntarily take the lead vocals as the crowd, and the musicians stop singing themselves. A lot of the times these interactive musicians too, they factor in humor and comedy into the song. Maybe they change the lyrics so that it's funny, because they're doing that to get a reaction out of you and get you more interactive. So to be an interactive musician and put on an interactive set, it takes a little bit more. You have to master the music, but then you have to also master another level, which is engagement, and that's very different as opposed to just standing up there and performing a piece. Now, I was booked for a show last year, and I'm booked for the same show this year, where they specifically want me to do a 30-minute interactive set where I get the crowd involved, I get the crowd to sing. You have to play a song the crowd knows. You have to give them cues and instructions to put their hands in the air, those kinds of things, where you're really engaging the crowd and you're really putting on an interactive performance. Now, that's very different from lounge music. If you try to do an interactive set at a mixer where they want to be conversational, you're probably not going to get hired again. If you try to do lounge music at an interactive show, like a dueling piano, you're probably not going to get hired again. So it helps to understand the different types of musical performance that you can do when you're hired to play for a gig. So if you're a musician, what's your thoughts on this? Are there any other categories I could potentially learn something from you? So please let me know in the comments. If you want to send me a private message, if that's a little bit more personal or private for you, I'd love that too. Please connect with me. Also, if you're not a musician and you're just you appreciate music and you go listen to live music all the time, have you thought about lounge versus featured performance versus interactive? What are your thoughts there? We'd love to hear from you too. So Seduce Mossy for everybody this is raw and unedited, everybody. Just give me exactly as I say it. Seduce Mossy for riding along with me on this Rise of Tide journey. I have more coming out, so please, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. If you see this on Instagram or on Facebook, please follow along and follow along. I would appreciate it. Hope you guys are having a good time out there, wherever you are. Seduce Mossy and Rise of Tide.